you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. Wish. Well, first of all, let's clear up some confusion around the anniversary and timing of this. This is part of the ongoing theme, branding theme of Disney 100. And that's the 100th anniversary of Walt Disney's company. But it's been 95 years since Mickey Mouse's Steamboat Willie. And their first feature animation didn't come out until 1937, Snow White. And so far, Disney Animation Studios has produced 62 feature films. Now, Disney has produced a lot more than that. For instance, there's been a number of movies that were animation live-action hybrids. There were also secondary studios, often in different countries, that would outsource animation for lower budget or direct-to-video or sometimes theatrical sequels. One of these was Disney Toon Studios. But anyway, this 62 is really the main animation studio that we're talking about. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again. The new anniversary logo, Disney 100, that they use at the beginning of the movie is not as stereoscopically powerful when you view it in 3D. It's pretty mild 3D. I don't know if they'll stick with a non-100 version of that once this period is passed. But yet, unfortunately, it doesn't have that coming out at you moment at the end, like the last one. But as for the body of the movie itself, the 3D aspect, a lot of it is a moderate 3D, as you'd come to expect with most Disney 3D animation. But that doesn't mean it's not worth seeing. It's definitely still good 3D, and there's a lot of stronger moments interspersed throughout. Sometimes the 3D seem to change in a realistic way, kind of like Avatar movies would, where it's faint in distance and stronger when it's closer up. That's kind of what Wish did with some shots. They were got stronger when it's a close-up personal view. And there's a lot of floating, glowing, and those things lend themselves very much to 3D. So it's a lot of eye candy, and it's very pretty. An interesting style choice that I appreciate they made was because, as we know, Disney started out hand-drawn, and then it gradually changed to computers. It stayed hand-drawn, but then those drawings were scanned into the computer, and they used digital ink and paint, which resulted in a much cleaner look, and finished it on the computer. So there was a digital master. So it was basically a computer animation of hand drawings somewhat, and they could add things like augment some CGI models and also add shadowing. And then they tried out realistic CGI with Dinosaur, and then they moved to the CGI that we most often see today in Chicken Little, and then stayed with that for the most part ever since, except for a couple exceptions like Winnie the Pooh and The Princess and the Frog. But with this movie, it's nice. They added a hand-drawn look to the computer animation. So it's sort of like a duller texture, darker outlines to the edging. So it's kind of like a foot in both worlds, which is perfect for the 100th anniversary year especially. And along with that, you'll find a lot of Easter eggs. So I'm sure there's a list out there somewhere. I haven't looked into it yet, but there are a lot of Easter eggs for Disney movies throughout the decades. Some are obvious, like the very obviously calling a deer Bambi. I mean, some are more subtle in the background, and then some have an obvious level on the surface, but then a little bit more to unpack. I'll give you an example. There's a mention made by one animal of of wanting a utopian metropolis where animals wear clothes. And most people know that's a reference to Zootopia. But the little hidden part there, the Easter egg within the Easter egg, is that Zootopia had an alternate title overseas. In the US it was Zootopia, in some places it was Zootropolis. So, which is of course two different words that they're adding zoo to, utopia and metropolis. So when the animal says a utopian metropolis, it's kind of a reference to both versions. And then during the end credits, that's another nice experience, because they show like all these characters from over the years in the form of star constellations. And so on either side of the credits. And what's nice is that those constellations in 3D have subtle depth to them. So it's not just a flat image. They didn't cheap out on the end. So that's a nice subtlety. And speaking of 3D, early on in the credits there's a single stereo credit among other artists, and that one stereo credit pops out ahead of the others appropriately. And then later on, when the full stereo credits are given for the 3D version, those also pop out. So that's an Easter egg only for the 3D fans. And there is a post-credit scene. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to know what it is, maybe skip this part or save it. But the post-credit scene does show a character basically inventing the song that was from Pinocchio, but ultimately became best known for the Disney logo, which is in fact what the movie itself is based on. And I really like the artistic style of the film. I'm glad they didn't lazily go into this trend that's like every animated movie is doing, where you've got these pudgy people with noodle arms and these mouths that are basically a rip-off of Aardman mouths. Even Pixar, that's all they do nowadays, and other studios as well to some degree. So thankfully they didn't go there. They kept it a classic style. And I know it's completely subjective what you enjoy in movies, but for me personally, I thought it was their best of the past almost decade, pretty much. I mean, Moana was enjoyable, Raya and Encanto to some degree, but I enjoyed this one a lot more. Probably not as much. Probably enjoyed it the most since Frozen and Big Hero 6. This was probably the one I enjoyed the most. It was a good classic villain, a nice motivation for him. The main characters, the heroes as well, relatable and believable to a degree. I mean, within this fantastical setting, obviously. Without giving too much away, it was about this land where this leader, who everybody viewed as benevolent, he would take people's wishes, their dreams, basically encapsulate them and keep them for safeguarding. And when that happened, they would forget what they were. He never planned to let them fulfill those or even work towards that. He was basically saying he's doing them a favor by keeping them locked away. And he gets more power hungry as time goes on. And I wouldn't doubt if there's some, like, a political allegory at play, like perhaps relating to the American dream, because like when there's new citizens coming to this place, it's very much evocative of an immigration ceremony, perhaps. And then during the big finale at the tower, when the top opens up, I very much believe they were trying to parallel imagery with these spikes and the green coloration imagery of the Statue of Liberty. So I think that's what they might have been going for in the overall theme. But still is a good, engaging, solid story. The running time is just over an hour and a half, which is great. There should be more movies like that. That does not affect quality. I mean, there's definitely a place for longer movies, but so many movies, especially in recent years, are unjustifiably certain lengths. Like, they're just trying to get that number out there, and it doesn't make sense. I think it ultimately harms the storytelling to not have deleted scenes. You can have this stuff on the Blu-ray later. But there's a lot to be said for trimming and staying focused. So while live action movies has often been trending toward 2.5 hours, and animated movies even have been trending towards an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours, this is finally a step back to where it was before, around the hour-and-a-half mark. And remember, credits are much longer nowadays, so it's really shorter. So that was a great decision. And it felt just right, the pacing. Now, if you didn't like the movie, I'm sure there's a Wish joke to be made here about knockoff or lack of quality or whatever. I'm sure there's a Wish joke, but I liked it, so I'm not going to be the one to think of it. If you do, go ahead. I won't be offended. Tell me in the comments. All right. See you next time.